guys, welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to be reviewing the 1983 crime thriller Bad Boys. Now this movie stars a very young Sean Penn, who is in the lead role playing the character Mickey O'Brien. Sean Penn had just completed work on the teen drama Fast Times at Ridgemont High, which would turn out to be a breakout role for him. So Bad Boys from 1983, not to get confused with the Michael Bay Will Smith version. This was directed by Rick Rosenthal. Now, Rick Rosenthal is a director that I'm actually familiar with. As some of you may know, I'm a big fan of the Halloween horror franchise, and Rick Rosenthal ended up actually directing 2 installments within the series. But besides those 2 films, I don't think I'd actually ever seen another Rick Rosenthal film up until now. This movie also stars actress Ali Sheedy, making her feature film debut, acting alongside Sean Penn as his love interest, JC. Now, I've got a lot of love for Ali Sheedy. I remember her from the John Hughes 1985 movie, The Breakfast Club. I saw that movie when I was a kid. I've seen all of the John Hughes films, but The Breakfast Club was, I don't know, kind of a standout one for me. That one was one I enjoyed the most. So yeah, Ali Sheedy is a familiar face, and I had no idea that she actually starred alongside Sean Penn in a film. So yeah, when watching the trailer for Bad Boys on YouTube, seeing Ali Sheedy, I was definitely intrigued. I was like, hey, I know her. She was in this movie? What? You know? So the movie, set in Chicago, follows a young Sean Penn. He plays the character of Mickey O'Brien. He's this young, punk, brash kid involved in all the wrong stuff. You know, at the very start of the film, we see O'Brien actually mug an old guy for his cash. The next scene, we see the cash being handed over so O'Brien can buy a handgun. So yeah, it's safe to say the O'Brien character, played by Sean Penn, is completely lost and heading for a downfall. Yeah, and when O'Brien actually returns home, he ends up finding his mother in the bathtub with a random stranger, I guess some dude that she's dating. So O'Brien is out mugging people for cash and buying guns. The mother is drinking wine in the bathtub. Yeah, you know, it's pretty safe to say that the mother has different priorities rather than to be looking out for her son. And we know, when I was watching this, I immediately thought, where exactly is O'Brien's father in all of this? He's never mentioned at all in this movie, and so it's safe to say that the O'Brien character comes from a single parent background. For how long, we don't know, it's not really made clear, but the O'Brien character has clearly had no consistent father figure, role model in his life to keep him in check. And this also seems to be the case for O'Brien's rival, Paco Moreno, played by S.A. Morales. Paco and his gang are local Chicago drug dealers selling their products on the streets. The character does seem to have a caring mother and siblings, but there also seems to be no male role model present. So Paco is a drug dealer, and yeah, I'm not too sure exactly if Paco's mother knew about his drug dealings. Maybe she did, maybe she, turned a blind eye to it all. And I think, if she did turn a blind eye to it, why did she do that? And, maybe for the financial benefits. I mean, that's just my interpretation, though. The film fails to kind of really flesh out Paco's kind of family history. So at the start of the film, O'Brien hatches a plan with his friend Kyle, played by actor Alan Ruck, to intercept one of Paco's drug deals. The idea being that O'Brien and Kyle can steal Paco's product and then sell it on for money. Now, Alan Ruck is an actor best known for his supporting role in the John Hughes comedy movie Ferris Bueller's Day Off from 1986. Another great film from John Hughes. In that film, Ruck plays a really kind of downbeat, awkward, kind of nerdy dude. I remember Ferris Bueller's Day Off quite fondly, and I remember his performance as well. And then it's, kind of strange but also refreshing to see Alan Ruck in this role as this low-level street thug making hits on drug dealers and getting into all sorts of crime. So we see the guys attempt the ambush on Paco and his gang, but it all goes awry, leading to Kyle being fatally shot on the side of the road. O'Brien, distressed and shocked about what's just gone on, attempts to flee the scene from the police. And there's a decent car chase that ensues. We get some nice close-ups of the Sean Penn character in his car. The adrenaline's pumping, and he's all intense, like, get out the way, like that. The car chase then leads to O'Brien actually crashing his car, but accidentally runs over Paco's 8-year-old brother, killing him in the process. Leading up to the ambush on Paco and his gang, we actually got a few shots of Paco's little brother sneaking out the house, and I remember just instantly seeing that and thinking, okay, something's up, something's about to happen with this guy. But still, the death of the little boy was, pretty shocking. The crash happens and O'Brien survives. The film quickly cuts to Mickey being convicted and sent to Rainford Juvenile Correction Facility. And, it's safe to say that it's pretty much like prison for young offenders. I will say the movie does a great job in depicting the shabby and dire conditions that you would see in real prisons. Of course, this is a Hollywood production, but the filmmakers do make a solid effort to recreate the kind of very raw, realistic backdrop for this film. And so the rest of the film focuses on O'Brien's journey into his new world at Rainford. O'Brien quickly meets his cellmate Barry Horowitz, played by the actor Eric Gurry. This guy is a pretty kind of nerdy kid, but in fairness, the character does bring some light-hearted energy to an otherwise bleak detention facility. Their cell block is dominated by two thugs, Viking and Tweety. The two are the big dogs, the big bullies, intimidating anyone and everyone. As soon as O'Brien gets in there, we see both Viking and Tweety making threats and basically bullying O'Brien. And there is actually a scene I want to mention that's quite shocking, or I found quite shocking. A scene where basically Viking and Tweety get into a fight with a fellow inmate outside the cells. Now, this young kid who is like 5 times smaller than Tweety and Viking, the reason he starts the fight with the two bullies is because he's actually just been sexually abused and subsequently seeks out revenge instantaneously. So the kid, I think, has got a knife and he's like waving it around, and it's pretty crazy. He comes out of nowhere, all ends in a fight, and Tweety picks up the kid and actually chucks him and throws him down on the floor, instantly killing him. O'Brien actually is a subsequent witness to it all. He sees it all play out in front of him. And I just thought it was a very, very dark scene that led to a tragic death of a young kid. You know, it's one thing to have the death, but to add the whole sexual abuse element to it all, very dark stuff. And as a viewer, if you didn't already, you absolutely now hate Viking and Tweety. And you know, these two guys instantaneously took a dislike to O'Brien as soon as he arrived. And like I said, after witnessing the death of this kid being, chucked off this balcony, O'Brien knew, okay, these guys are seriously dangerous and I could be next on their list. But before Viking and Tweety can get the jump on O'Brien, O'Brien gets the jump on them, leading to an actual 2-on-1 fight. That whole world is about survival. We've seen it so many times over the years in various prison movies. It's eat or be eaten, right? The O'Brien character quickly learned that. You know, for a film from the early 80s, I gotta say, this film is pretty gritty and it doesn't shy away from the harsh violence you get in juvenile detention centres. And the violence and sexual assault continues when the movie picks up with Paco living his life after the accident and death of his brother. The Paco character now seeks out revenge for the death of his brother. How does Paco go about this? By barbarically sexually assaulting O'Brien's girlfriend, Ali Sheedy, after following her in his car. If you've seen any of my reviews and stuff, there are films that I do review that do involve sexual assault. I don't really like that depiction, but it's part of the story and stuff like that. In terms of the actual scene itself, it was pretty, not great. The scene definitely portrayed the Paco character as evil. I mean, you kind of have sympathy for him because his brother accidentally got killed by O'Brien. But to seek out revenge by molesting his girlfriend, Ali Sheedy, it just was dark stuff. Dark stuff. A disturbing act, but definitely played out very well and authentically by both actors involved, Ali Sheedy and S.A. Morales. And this movie is very conflicting with who you want to sympathise with. Initially, Paco, even though a drug dealer, like I mentioned, he loses his brother in tragic circumstances. You feel for him. And then Paco proclaims revenge on O'Brien. I never got the impression that the guy would then stoop so low to do what he did. Fortunately, Paco is immediately arrested. He actually gets caught in the act, and subsequently he ends up in the same dormitory as O'Brien at Rainford. The reasoning behind this is that there is no other reform schools that have vacancies open at the time. I like the idea on paper. The O'Brien character and the Paco character could wind up eventually meeting again and be able to have this big battle. In terms of how it was played on screen or how it was presented on screen and the reasoning behind it, I thought it was a little too contrived and it was convenient for story's sake. So Paco arrives at Rainford and immediately becomes friends with Viking. And as soon as they meet, after the fight with Viking and stuff like that, it's just a matter of time before this whole situation just explodes and escalates into an all-out prison war. And indeed, the final part of the movie does have a showdown between Paco and O'Brien that takes place. By this point in the film, word has gotten back to O'Brien that his girlfriend JC has been sexually assaulted by Paco, and of course he wants revenge too. So the fight happens and the inmates actually get awoken from the noises from the brawl. We actually see a few inmates barricade the door to the dormitory, stopping any security getting in and stopping the fight. And yep, it's a bloody battle. Sean Penn, O'Brien, he's bleeding, he's busted open, so is Paco. It's a fight to the death. It goes on for a few minutes, and yeah, it's fairly intense with all the inmates around them yelling and hollering at the two. It's yeah, intense scene. The fight ends with O'Brien getting the best of Paco, and you see him preparing to deliver the final or fatal stab wound. But O'Brien, at the last second, decides not to kill Paco and instead stabbed the floor mat. Now, doing some research into this drama, I discovered that the director, Rick Rosenthal, made several changes to the script before signing on to direct. Ironically, Rosenthal gave this excuse that he wanted to make changes because the original script for Bad Boys was just too violent. I found that quite strange coming from a guy that had just directed Halloween 2, but whatever. But anyways, I bring that up because, making changes to the script, I don't know for sure, but I really get the impression that the original ending was O'Brien actually killing Paco, and that they decided to not do this and change, and I guess give the O'Brien character a redeeming ending. For me, after all of the violence and stuff that we'd already seen throughout this film, I almost felt it was necessary for O'Brien to take out on Paco and end him once and for all. The filmmakers decided to maybe try and redeem the character. I don't think it was needed, and even just looking at the build up of that's before at the last second the O'Brien character changes his mind. The build up to that is really intense. It's like this crescendo. It's a really cool scene, but it just didn't really make sense for me that the O'Brien character, who had done all this bad, crazy stuff already, decided not to kill Paco. But it is what it is. Sean Penn does a great job here, delivering a believable performance as this jaded, lost kid that is clearly yearning for more. Matt Dillon was actually in line to play the O'Brien character before they decided to give it to Sean Penn instead. And I think that was the right call. I like Matt Dillon, but I don't really think I could see him in this type of role. But yeah, Sean Penn was brilliant, and already coming off the success playing Spicoli in Fast Times at Ridgemont High, hey, goes on to this movie and once again is the standout in this film. S.A. Morales as well, have to give a shout out to him. He was very solid in this, very believable, and yeah, at the very end you wanted him to be killed, so he did a good job of playing the bad guy. So, dislikes for Bad Boys 1983. The main dislike I have for this movie would have to be the film score by Bill Conti. I understand he's a very well respected composer in the industry, but his music, for me personally, just did not gel with this movie's visuals. The score I found to be very outdated, even for a early 80s movie. And just kind of replaying certain scenes in my head, I definitely think that there would have or could have been a number of scenes where you could have, removed the music, the background score, and the scenes overall would have played out and would have been better and benefited from that. The score was at times really kind of over dramatic, and like I mentioned, we've got sexual assault, we've got muggings, we've got people being killed and shot on the side of the road, little kids being killed, prison fights. It's a gritty film, and I've mentioned this, as credit to the filmmakers, they depicted this prison kind of detention juvenile center really well. A raw, dire place nobody would want to be in. Yet the score is not whimsical, but it's just over dramatic. I liken it to a mid 70s TV drama kind of thing. You know, it just was so out of place for me, and even to the point where I thought, I'd like to show some of my friends, and I thought, yeah, this would be a cool movie to show. But man, like, the soundtrack is so poor. I think it would actually put people off unless you're a real actual fan of Sean Penn. The movie's not perfect, but overall it's definitely worth watching. But yeah, the main dislike absolutely would be the score soundtrack, and I would love if it was possible to redub, take out the score and redub it to a much more kind of grittier, darker soundtrack. That's what the film needs, and maybe the film was successful, but the film may have been even bigger and even more remembered if it had a decent soundtrack. So ratings for Bad Boys 1983. I'm going to rate this a 6.5 out of 10, purely based on the strong performances from Sean Penn, Ali Sheedy, and S.A. Morales. It's absolutely well worth a watch if you've never seen this movie before. If you're a Sean Penn fan and you've not seen this one, it's an early role from him. Absolutely, definitely go check it out. I highly recommend it. But sadly, it does contain a very weak, lackluster score, which unfortunately I would say actually spoils the film and kind of hurts the film in a way. So, but nevertheless, the strong performances make it worth watching. So yeah, go check out, guys, if you've not seen it. That's the video for today. I will be back very soon with even more movie reviews. Thank you guys so much for the ongoing support, and I will be back soon. Take care, guys.
Like, subscribe.